Welcome to your underwater hunter class. A little bit about the class, a little bit about me, and then we'll get down to the nitty gritty, if you will. So about 15 years ago, I was teaching here in the Keys and saw a need for spearfishing education. So I got with Patty and they said if I wrote this course and they accepted it, then we can teach it. So that's what happened. And after a few going back and forths, we kind of figured out what the course was going to be about, and here we are. So the course is very unique in the fact that yes, you are learning how to spearfish, but we teach it with a very conservation-minded approach and the sustainability, if you will, of spearfishing, and I'll go over that a little more in the course. So my name is Eric Billups. I own the Florida Keys Dive Center and the Alamorada Dive Center. I also own Florida Keys Spearfishing Company, and I'm the author of the Patty Underwater Hunter course. So you're in good hands here. I've taught this class probably going on over 1,000 times now, and I still love doing it. So let me kind of detail how the class is going to break down. We're going to go over some equipment. We're going to go over some techniques. We're going to go over safety, we're going to go over sustainability, and after that, we're pretty much done. And then you're going to get out in the water with your instructor and actually do this in real life, if you will. So first things first, I want to talk about equipment. You guys are certified divers, and so you know about your scuba diving equipment. Your regulator, your BCDs, your fins, your mask, all that's fine. You don't need a special BCD to go spearfishing. There are some pieces of equipment that will help you, if you will, give you a little bit more of an advantage. And let's see, the black skirted mask is one of them. What the black skirted mask does, it reflects ambient light just like this ball cap right here. All right, so you'll see most spearfishermen wearing a black skirted mask. Another thing you can do is get a mask that has a little bit of tint on the glass. All right, and what that does, believe it or not, fish can kind of sense when you're staring at them, getting ready to shoot them, if you will. So this mirrored or tinted glass of your mask kind of helps that. All right. Another important thing to have is a good pair of gloves when spearfishing. These here are made out of a little bit of Kevlar. There's a lot of pointy things on fish, whether it's their dorsal fins, grouper, their gills, underneath their gills are razor sharp. You might see a lobster if it's in season while you're spearfishing, so having a nice pair of gloves is very important. Fins, again, your normal fins are great, no problem with those, but you'll see spearfishermen with what's called long blades, all right? And what those do, those give you a little more power when you're going to more or less attack, when it's time to pull that trigger. A few big thrusts of these massive fins gives you a little more power, gives you a little more success rate. But your fins are fine. So let's talk a little bit about the extra equipment you're gonna need to go spearfishing. And the first one, the most important ones, if you will, are the guns. All right, so there is numerous types of guns out there these days. There's guns that are made out of wood, which is something like this. The wood stocked gun. There's guns that are made out of aluminum, which is similar to this guy. Aluminum stock gun. So there are numerous materials you can find in your guns. There are guns, two types of guns as far as propulsion. There is a banded type gun, which is this surgical tubing banded bands that make the propulsion of the spear shaft. And then there's pneumatic guns, which are more or less a dying breed of gun, but they're still out there, and they work by compressed air in a chamber. But I recommend, and you'll see it mostly in the industry now, is a banded gun. So let's talk about these guns, all right? We're gonna start at the tip, and we're gonna make her all the way down to the butt and go over everything so you know exactly what this weapon, and it is a weapon, is all about. So let's start at the tip. You can see these two things right here. Those are called barbs. And those are what keeps the fish from getting off, hopefully. So you shoot your fish, the fish slides down, these barbs kick out, and it kind of holds that fish on there until you put it on a stringer, okay? Moving further down, you've got this little slide ring right here that allows the lanyard to slide up and down the shaft. You've got your surgical tubing, which is the bands, which we talked about. There could be two, there could be three, there could be one, okay? This little wire right here is called the wishbone. That wishbone is what engages all the way down here to this notch on the shaft, and that's loaded, if you will. All right, so you got your bands, your wishbone, you pull those down into the notch. Move down, you've got this line right here, it's called a lanyard. So it's a little bit different when you're spearfishing than it is, say, hunting with a rifle, because you're always connected to your shaft. You can imagine bow hunting, when you release the arrow, it's always connected to the bow with a line. That's how spearfishing is. So that's what this lanyard is. And this lanyard releases when you pull the trigger, and I'll show that a little bit more. This little hook here is what keeps the lanyard attached. You got your safety. All right, every gun has a safety, a fire and a safe, if you will. Okay, trigger, your handle, and then the very end is the butt of the gun. This little plastic piece is where you put on your body somewhere to cock the gun, if you will. All right, so that's the gun. It's a really simple piece of equipment, kind of a glorified slingshot, if you will. Okay, so that's that. So now we're going to talk about one other piece of equipment that you need to go spearfishing, and that's your stringer. Once you shoot a fish, you need to get him on the stringer. All right, it's just a big, this one is just a big safety pin. All right, pops open, put your fish on, close it up. And this is usually latched to your BCD somewhere, you know, where you like it. Okay, so that's it. That is the equipment. Now we're going to talk a little bit about technique. So we talked about the guns, we talked about the bands, where you cock the bands into. Now we're going to talk about how you do that system. Okay, so when you get out there and it's time to get in the water, you're going to do a giant stride off the boat. You're going to descend down, and your instructor is going to take you to somewhere where it's sandy. Okay, because you're going to be kneeling and standing down, and you don't want to mess up the coral or anything. So they're going to take you to a sandy spot, and you're going to learn how to cock this, how to aim it, how to fire it, and then how to re-lanyard, re-cock it to where you're ready to go again to shoot another fish. And that thing is called a spear fishing cycle. From the moment you pull the trigger to when you're going to pull it again. Okay, so I'm going to go over that right now. So first thing you want to do is make sure you're on safe. All right, what this is just a trigger block, blocks the trigger. It's pointing down, that's safe. So we're on safety. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to put the butt of the gun somewhere on your body, depending on the gun, where it's comfortable to get ready to cock it. This type of gun with this elongated butt will go in kind of like your groin hip area. All right, so you place it there, and then with an underhand grip, that's important. Underhand grip, not overhand like this. You go underhand, reach up, grab the bottom band. All right, reach up with your other hand, grab the other side of the bottom band. Now you're gonna, with one motion, bring this down and put it into the first notch. So you're gonna bring it down like this and do a sit-up kind of like this at the same time, underwater, right? First notch. So it's the first notch on the shaft and the bottom band. That's the one you start with. If you went and started with the top band, what happens is it pinches that bottom one and you can't use it. So you always start with the bottom one. Again, underhand grip, reach up, first notch. Now why do we go to that first notch? If I was to bring it all the way down to the bottom one, you won't be able to use these two. So you always start with the first, second band, the next. Just drop the fins. All right, so that's it. That's a loaded gun. All right, I'm gonna unload it for safety purposes. To unload it, we're just reaching back down here by the wishbone and releasing. Okay, and that's it. That's how you load a gun. Now, obviously, I'm doing this in a controlled environment for your education. You don't ever want to cock a gun on land, on the boat, anywhere else besides underwater before you get ready to hunt, all right? That's just a safety thing. You never want to do that. You never want to have a cocked gun when you're coming up to the boat or anything like that. This is a weapon, and you need to be treated like one, okay? All right, so now we're gonna uncock it again. Reach down, right above the wishbone, pull it back, and that's it. Now you're uncocked, okay? So that's how you load the weapon, and now we're gonna go over, I guess, how you hunt, how you stalk. The next step after loading is actually trying to go get a fish, right? So this gun is loaded. Again, we're gonna pretend because we're being safe. You wanna grab it right here in about the middle of the gun, all right? And you wanna keep this down by your side as you kick, swim, dive around looking for a legal fish. And the reason why we do this is that fish can sense herky-jerky movements. Obviously, we do this because we don't like to swim around with our finger on the trigger. Again, that's safety reasons. But you want to be very controlled, no herky-jerky movements, very relaxed, okay? And just kind of swim around and more or less don't look like a hunter, okay? And that way you won't spook the fish. So you want to swim around with your hand in the middle of the gun until it's time, okay? So what happens is your instructor is going to show you a fish that's legal. It's going to give you the okay, and then you're going to hunt that particular fish. So pretend there's a fish out there, he's 20, 30 feet away, your instructor says you're good to go. First things first, and I still forget this, is switch that from safe to fire, okay? Now you go from grabbing the gun from here, to grabbing it down here, and getting it out in front of your body, and you're kicking after that fish, okay? So that's how you swim. This is neutral in the water, so it doesn't really weigh anything. So it's very easy to swim with the gun like that. And how you're going to fire, it's not like a rifle, like some might be used to. You wanna get this all the way out, okay? Because that tip of that shaft, you wanna have as close as possible to the fish. All right, so extend all the way out with your opposite hand, brace the butt of the gun, okay? And now you're swimming after your target. As you're swimming after your target, obviously you're gonna have to get some pretty good kicks because these fish don't like to get shot. So you're gonna swim after these fish, and then hopefully this fish kind of gets a little bit sideways to give you a nice broad side shot. You want it with these particular guns, you wanna get about 5 to 10 feet away, okay? So you want to get close as you possibly can. There are limits to the range of these weapons, and so you want to get as close as you possibly can. So as you get into that range and you feel that you're close enough, again, between that 5 and 10 foot mark, you want to line it up. All right, there's no sights on these guns. So you're just sighting off the tip of the shaft. You line it up as you think possible right on the side of that fish. When you think it's ready to go, you pull the trigger. What's gonna happen is that lanyard is going to release, the shaft's gonna come out, and you're gonna be in this position here. Hopefully that shaft met its mark, and there's a fish kicking on the end of that spear shaft. That's excellent, all right? But what do you do here? What do we do? We're one-handed, that's no good, right? Some people will say just drop your gun and swim and get your fish. I don't personally like to do that because sun guns float, they get wrapped around the coral, they get wrapped around fans, and again, this is a conservation-minded approach to spearfishing, all right? We protect the corals, we protect the fans, we protect the sea life. So what I prefer you to do is what I call shoulder the gun. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your hand and stick it through the bands. Now you've got your gun with you at all times, and your hands are free to do what you gotta do. So now you're swimming, okay? I don't recommend pulling the lanyard in, all right? Don't do that. You wanna swim to the shaft. The reason why is that shaft is through the fish. So you swim up to it, that shaft is through the fish, and if you start pulling with the lanyard on that shaft, it's gonna vibrate, that fish is going to kick around like mad to get off because he's feeling it vibrate. So what you do is you let him just sit on that shaft and you swim up to it, and with two hands you grab that fish, okay? You grab it and you just relax a little bit because now you got him. Now at this point, It's very important at this point, before you take the fish off this shaft, you want to get them on that stringer. Okay? So what you do, your stringer's on your BCD somewhere, right? We're going to open it up. We're going to take that fish and we're going to go in one eye, out the other. Okay? And then we're going to close our stringer, let it go because it's attached to our BCD. Now, once he's strung up, game over. You have that fish. Game over. So now you can take the shaft out of the fish. And how we do that is we pinch these barbs, we push this little slide ring up, and then the fish slides out easy. Okay? Fish is already on the stringer, let it go. So now we're in this position here, and we're ready to reload. Okay? This is the spearfishing cycle. So make sure, if you look at my gun right now, see how those bands are laying? Make sure these bands are both on the top of the gun. You get them down like here and you put it in, you got to take this out. It just takes time. You're breathing air, you're going through your air. You're not going to have as much time to hunt. So make sure both bands are on top. Slide it in and make sure you go underneath both bands. Now, here is one of the most important pieces of this entire course that I want you to listen to. These shafts, you can see that, have these three, this one in particular has 3 notches where these wish bands go into. These notches are sharp, razor sharp. So if you put your hand here and take this shaft and thrust it down, you're going to take chunks out of your palm. Okay? So what I want you to do is once you get the shaft in, bands are right where they need to be, take your hand, get it on the opposite side of those notches. Then slide it down, make sure the notches are up, make sure the trigger notch is down. Hands are on this side of the notches, slide it into the trigger mechanism and give it a nice little thrust. Pull out, make sure it's engaged. Okay? Once it's engaged, now it's time to re-lanyard. You can see this lanyard has 2 sides to it. One has a bungee, one does not. Take the non-bungee side, bring it down to the hook, back up to that hook, and this is where you use that bungee to stretch it around the hook. At this point, we're going back to our safety. Okay, we're in safe mode. We're reaching up, underhand grip, and we're loading. We'll do the other band as well. Now, we're going to hunt. Okay? That's that spearfishing cycle. That's where you want to get very efficient. Okay? From shooting a fish to the whole cycle, what I just did, to getting ready to shoot a fish again. Okay? Again, to uncock, pinky's down by the top of the wishbone, pull it up, and let it go. Now you're uncocked. Okay? So that's that spearfishing cycle. Now a little bit about some techniques. And these are, you know, if you continue with this sport, these you're going to learn as you go. But just a few techniques you might see your instructor doing while you're out there. You know, all fish are different. They hang out in different areas of the water column. Some hide underneath rocks, some are up high, some are down low. So you'll see your instructor doing different things to hopefully find you a legal fish to shoot, okay? You might see him just kind of trucking normal, just scanning the area, that's fine. You might see him go down low and look underneath coral heads, things like that. Grouper tend to hide up underneath there. You might see him going up really high, because if you get noticed by, say, a grouper, they don't like you and they're going to swim away from you. So if you want to, again, appear as you're not threatening, so the higher you go sometimes, you know, takes that threat away. So you're going to see maybe your instructor doing that. You might also see your instructor go to some sand and start pounding on the sand like this. That will bring out hogfish. That will bring out porgies. All right? They feed by blowing in the sand and eating what comes out. Okay? So you're going to see some different techniques. And again, you know, you're going to learn these more and more as your spearfishing career, I guess, continues on. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about safety now. And again, I mentioned this earlier. This spear gun is a weapon. You treat it like any other weapon, you know. So obviously, you never point it at another diver, you know, even accidentally. You want to be conscious of where you're pointing it. When your dive is done and it's time to ascend, you never ascend with a loaded spear gun. You always unload your spear gun, and for a couple of reasons. Obviously for safety, but another reason is, say you're going up the upline and you got your spear gun like this and you're going up the upline and there's a current and you need to check your wash, clear your mask or something like that. How are you going to do it, right? With an unloaded gun, you can do the same thing we did when you're shooting a fish. You can shoulder it, right? You go up the upline, clear your mask, check your time, things like that. Okay, so always ascend with an unloaded gun. Now, once you get to the surface, you're swimming back to the boat. If you're the first one back, for instance, and it's time to hand your weapon up to the crew, you never hand it up tip first. All right, imagine retrieving this from somebody handing it to you. So what you want to do is you want to flip it around. You want to hand it up to the crew butt first with the tip away from you in case they lose their grip and drop it. Okay, so you hand it up just like this. All right, and that's it as far as for safety. Again, treat it like a weapon, give it respect. We have to talk about sea life, sea critters, sea creatures, sea monsters, if you will. That's one of the questions, you know, that's always raised kind of first in the class. What about sharks? Well, here in the Keys, we definitely don't have an issue with sharks preying on spear fishermen, if you will. I'm not going to tell you that you won't see one. You might. I mean, we kind of hope we do, to be honest with you. They're really cool to see underwater. But typically they're not any type of threat for us. I'm not saying that's the case when you go to the Bahamas or somewhere else in the world, but for here in the Keys, sharks aren't a really threat for us spearfishing. Again, I'm not telling you you're not going to see them. You might, and your instructor will know if there is a shark in the area, if he sees them and it's being somewhat feisty, if you will, then you end the dive, you get out. Now that's happened to me handful of times, and I've been spearfishing down here for almost 20 years and have thousands and thousands and thousands of spearfishing dives under my belt. So not very common. Eels love fish, right? So you might be swimming over a reef and you've got fish on your stringer and they're dangling over the reef and you don't even know there's an eel there. He might come out, he smells it. He might come out and see what's going on. Just swim away. It's that easy. He doesn't want anything to do with you. Same with barracuda. They want nothing to do with you. Never had an incident with a barracuda. I've had eels come out because they smelled it and I swam away and they went back home. So we have to talk about it because I want to ease your mind a little bit. But I trust me, you don't have anything to worry about. At that point, I think that concludes. We do want to talk a little bit about what fish to shoot. Your instructor is going to go over that a little bit more. It changes. Honestly, it changes quite often as far as the rules and regulations, the sizes and things like that. So I'm going to leave that up to your instructor. He's going to go over what's legal this time of year that you're hunting. He's going to go over sizes and whatnot. I don't expect you to memorize them. Your instructor is going to point out things that are legal. And he's also going to point out things that maybe are legal but too small. But I'll leave that up to him. He's going to go over all that as well. So enjoy it. It's so much fun, and enjoy the meal that you'll have after a successful spearfishing trip today. Well done. We'll talk to you.